We have what their attorney has provided us, and he thinks is sufficient for his purposes. Therefore, the city is not warranting that description, but they're using the description of the petitioner. That's why I'm asking if that's what you're wanting to do here, is use the petitioner's description.
Say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
That's fine.
Mr. Weaver.
That's fine. I just want to know if that's what you want. Because in the other, in all the other instances, the petitioner has brought what they wanted. I've not been presented this by their attorney as what they want.
We'll be sure and have him do that for you.
I'm so confused.
I'm sensing in the tone a dire warning. Is there something I'm missing?
Not toward the city.
I don't pretend to understand any of this. I'm trying to catch up, and so that I can make so that I can at least speak the language. Okay, is there something about this that you're having some real doubts about? I'm sensing in the way you're putting this that there's some kind of a warning here. Or some kind of a doubt, or I don't know, is anybody else picking that up?
Well,
What do you know that we don't?
Yeah, okay,
I'll tell you one of the problems that I have with this.
okay.
It's handwritten, and very, very rarely do you see anymore a handwritten description. And it's handwritten on a city document rather than having a legal description attached that says that it's a certified legal description by a surveyor. It also says see attached. Legal descriptions don't normally say see attached unless there's something attached.
See attached
What-
for the reasons to vacate, not
This-
the survey.
So it doesn't necessarily look like a legal description that describes a piece of property to me. The city, if the city relies on what they're given, is not an issue.
No. We're still discussing. Go ahead. All right, Ms. Briggs has her hand up. We don't want to.
I was
We
going
don't
to
want
say
to
that
recognize
she'd
her.
come up again.
Yes.
Rachel, did you have a surveyor do this?
No. What I've handed in is this. First of all, there are no procedures for vacating in the city code, the planning code, or the parks code. It just kind of is. And I think Mr. McClung has it on the agenda because it needs to be kind of tightened up and kind of fixed. This is the application that Parks gives out. This is the only application for vacation that exists. It is not downloadable from a website in a PDF or anything unless I put it into a typewriter or knew more about computers. I have to handwrite it. The original one I turned in May of 2013 was handwritten, and that was perfectly acceptable to both Parks and Planning. Now, as far as the legal description goes, I have an unnamed street that lies between Block 1, lots 15 and 19, and Block 2, lots 1 through 3 in Magnetic Bay's survey. Now, if this dang thing is good enough for everything else to go off of in this town for 120 years, why is it not good enough for my application for vacation? Here it is. Our property surrounds this unnamed piece of road. I don't know what else a legal description would be necessary. And also in state statute 14301302 regarding vacating, if it's not named, you cannot name it.
Yes, sir.
Rachel, we appreciate you doing. Let me ask one question. When you bought your property, did you get it surveyed?
We did not, but there was a survey that existed.
And do you know about how old that survey
It was from 2009.
So there is a survey of 2009. So when you wrote on that application that you're supposed to fill in pen, when you wrote it down, did you take it from that survey?
In my original application to Parks, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The only change in this one is I have an unnamed street instead of part of Rock Street. That's the only difference.
Could you have your attorney get us the legal description and attach it to that application so we can start this process?
Did I or can I?
Can you do that? Could you have your attorney?
Yes, I
give us
can.
the legal description so that we can attach it to this as we're starting this process?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the question. Okay, no. We're
Okay.
gonna vote. Let's go for
Now,
it.
the other question was, I think, from Mr. Weaver is are you still money issue that you have, Mr. Weaver, with?
No.
Okay, have you satisfied that question?
If they're going to provide the description, that's all I need.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
President?
5-1. Oh, wait a minute. All right.
4-1-1.
Okay. 1-1. Okay, moving on. I would like to ask you guys if we could take like a 10-minute.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Any opposed? Okay. We'll be back in session. We had just finished discussion on number 3, unfinished business, Cottage and Magnetic. We had taken a vote. Moves us on to number 4, unfinished business, which will be an ordinance for procedures vacating property with processing fee. Motion to discuss.
Mr. Mayor,
We postponed that. didn't we?
in speaking with Mr. Weaver during recess, of not prepared with an ordinance yet, I would like to have this postponed, please, till we can.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I already had it down.
Postpone.
It's postponed. Okay. Or number 6.
So we just lost your mic. Okay. Number 5 has been postponed. Moves us to number 6. Discussion of ordinance 2201, Clean City, and include a workshop date. So, motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Floor is open.
We've had a first,
Go ahead. I understand.
we've had a first reading on this, and then based on discussion at the last meeting, some that Mr. McClung had and some that Joyce had, I went back through it, made some modifications, tried to use green and red and found out real quick that wasn't a good one. And thankfully the city clerk helped me find how to line through stuff. So I made some modifications based on that input at the last meeting and sent out to everybody at the table here, including the city clerk, a modified ordinance at the same time. So if council still wants to go into a workshop, then we probably should stop and do that. Or if they were comfortable with what they have had the opportunity to read, and I'm not too sure how we handled, since there was one reading and now there's been changes, I don't know how we handle that.
Mr. DeVito.
I'd move to set a workshop because we'll end up going through every line item by item and discussing every single change that's been made. And at this point, with the evening, with the rest of our agenda ahead of us,
Second thing.
What was the motion?
A motion made to go to
go to
workshop.
workshop.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, workshop.
Should we put this workshop with the other workshop we're going to do, take a few minutes so we don't have to keep coming back for all these different ones?
If y'all want to. It's your workshop.
This shouldn't take super long, so would it interfere with the water sewer? Just,
I think they're good both people.
okay.
I do
never mind.
too.
Leave them alone.
Lonnie seemed to think that it's going to take 2 workshops for the water sewer thing. So that sounds like it's an ordeal.
Okay, moves us to number 7, discussion. Moves us to number 7, discussion of collapsing parking lot by Auditorium Ms. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, floor is open. Ms. Schneider.
I didn't see this one when we were working on the agenda. We discussed that last time. I thought at that time that the courthouse lease and the parking lot lease were tied together. They weren't, so now we've got courthouse lease on here. This needs to be with the courthouse lease, a discussion at the same time. in conjunction. It's the same problems with the same people.
Actually, they're two different issues.
Well, they're two different issues, but it's the same situation. Okay, we can keep them separate. I don't care.
No, I'm Mr. DeVito.
We've just signed both leases, which are
Yes.
good through.
One's
No, I'm not putting it off.
one's for 3 years and one's for a year.
So we're bound by those leases, and we can't change those leases. So any discussion at this time would simply be an academic discussion. I say we delete this item from our agenda and move on.
No.
No.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
All right.
Okay, motion fails for a second. Mr. Purkeypile.
Okay, this was my understanding is we were going to discuss the collapsing parking lot or the issues associated with the two sites that have been broke off. I spoke with Dwayne Allen, our public works director, for a good period of time about this, and I went underground when we did our initial foray and looked at this storm sewer that we have. And there was also an engineering opinion made by McClung Engineering. A lot of photographs were taken, and underneath that particular section of the parking lot, the storm sewer consists of large limestone blocks. It's rectangular in shape. The blocks are large blocks across the top. They have all cracked, each and every one of them, underneath that area, and I could see back probably 10, 12 feet. So every time this thing engages, we don't know what's being pulled out of there, the fines, the gravel, that sort of material. So we can see that it could be a slow failure because I think the overarching rock, this is my engineering opinion by the way, the overarching rock has probably got enough frictional resistance to kind of create direct the forces down around the side of it. However, that being said, this is something that we'll have to deal with eventually, and I believe Mr. Allen has indicated that he's trying to get funding and assistance through the federal government on a couple of disaster declarations, and we're still in the process. Mr. Mayor, is that correct? We're still trying to pursue that, or were we not able to pursue that any further?
My understanding was that FEMA said we're not getting a penny.
Okay. Well, we need to address it at some point in time. And may I ask Diane Wilkerson to approach the mic?
I do want to say that Dwayne is working on a mitigation plan which would help us get funding
Yes.
for future events
Yes.
and stuff like that. But we did apply twice and got turned down.
Okay. So that mitigation plan, we have to have that in hand before we can get funding to repair this. We've got several sections all up and down the storm sewer that need to be repaired. And typically they happen to be under the parking lots. So at this point in time, I think that the previous mayor, Dana Joy, was involved in this, and she indicated that just to be safe, let's go ahead and mark off those two spots there because they had subsided just slightly, a couple of inches. And I don't have a problem with that. If we want to continue to leave those open, I think we should until we are blocked off until we get this mitigation plan at hand and we go try to find some funding to repair this thing.
Mr. Schneider.
Okay, see now, I agree thoroughly with that, except my point is it's up to Quorum Court, who owns the land, to do their landlord job and repair this. And they aren't going to do squat if we don't make them. Now, we have told them from day one we will do everything we can to help you find grant money, funding, whatever, to do this. And as far as I can tell, they have done diddly. And that's what I'm saying. We had to wait. I waited to bring this up until the leases were all properly signed. As I said at the last meeting, they own it, they're responsible, fix it. is what it comes down to. This is their job and duty as a landlord. Right? Whether we have it blocked off or not is our choice, but they own it, they got to do it.
Mr. Purkeypile.
You know, I have a recommendation to kind of solve this, at least from the surface, and that is to cut out that section of blacktop and concrete and place a reinforced concrete pad across there with footings. And so it actually would support any vehicle that happened to be there. And it would also be wide enough to offset the width of the storm channel, the storm sewer. And I've recommended that to Dwayne Allen, and he's also thought the same thing. So I mean, there are means of dealing with this without, I mean, just to prevent any collapse without having to actually dig out the entire parking lot, and because that's a major endeavor, and we're talking several $100,000, you know, just to do that, you know, a couple $100,000, just for that one section. So that would be one means of kind of, it'd be not so much a Band-Aid, but it would be a structural means of kind of solving this problem. And then you have your parking lot, your 2 parking spaces back.
Except that the Warren Court should be putting the bill.
Okay.
That's my contention. They've got to do this.
Mr. McClung.
Couple of things. One is you do a 16, 20-foot section in there. What's that going to do to compromise each end of that once that is done?
What's what going to do?
For what's above and below? I mean, is it fixing that one section? Is it going to compromise what's above or below in it with damage, or no? I mean, it's not.
Just surface. It's a parking surface that is structural.
Oh, I thought you were talking about doing a concrete slab with supports all the way to the bottom.
No. It's just a minor footing on each side, 2 to 3 foot deep footing, and
Oh, I see.
slab
Over to where it's solid. I see.
Yes,
And
sir.
bridge, and doing
Yes, sir. Just-
a bridge.
You bridge over it.
That would cost how much?
No,
I want that contract.
the replacing the storm sewer underneath the entire parking lot would be very expensive.
Okay.
This would be a very inexpensive means of actually allowing you to start utilizing the revenue from those parking spaces.
Okay. My second point of contention is for Ms. Schneider, and that is, you know, you play with fire with your landlord, and you may not have a home.
Works for me if it keeps people safe.
Good for you. I'm not so
Well, we get
I'm
to
not
the
so
other
easily
one.
put out.
Anybody else? Ms. Ellie.
Well, there isn't any law that says if you're a landlord you have to fix things. We have several landlords in town who can attest to that. But what concerns me is the insurance on the thing. If this thing caves in and somebody is harmed, who is liable? And that was my question in the last session with that. And I see my name is down here with the discussion of the courthouse lease, and that was my concern. Who carries the insurance policy on that parking lot if it caves in and somebody is damaged and, you know, somebody gets hurt? We have casualties. Who is liable for this? If the quorum court, if the county owns that parking lot, there should be some sort of evidence that there is an insurance policy. And if there isn't, what kind of legal jeopardy does that put us in? And that was my question the last time around. Have we done anything on that to find out who's liable for what? And what kind of legal jeopardy we are in if that parking lot caves in while somebody happens to be driving over it?
It would be the same as if one of our streets was to cave in, and we would be tort immune for a street caving in. There is no requirement that we bear a liability policy, and I doubt very much if the county has one, and I know of none that the city has that would bear up if you're driving across one of our small bridges in town and it collapses.
But if we are aware of the danger, is not that negligence? A disregard for public safety? If we're
It hasn't
quite
been
aware
that
that
hasn't
somebody
been
can get killed
determined.
here?
The mitigation factor that we have done right now of blocking them off would probably defeat an argument of negligence, but negligence is also tort immune.
No.
Unless it is intentional harm. Unless we intentionally go under there and dynamite it loose when somebody's standing on top of it, we're probably still not responsible under current state law.
What about Quorum Court or the county?
Same
The
thing.
court, they have the same, should have the same immunity, but that's their lawyer's job
So-
and the,
so
and
what
the
you're saying
county
is-
judges.
This thing can be crumbling because they don't feel like fixing it and we don't own it, so we're not fixing it. If somebody's in
Well-
the parking lot and it crumbles, too bad?
When it originally occurred, there was a debate as to who is legally responsible for the cost of repair because the what's under there that is potentially to fall in is a sewer or a live stream. And if it is a sewer that belongs to the city may be responsible for repairing that structure that holds all that rock up out of our sewer. If it's a live stream, then it may be that it belongs to the Corps of Engineers even. So,
I remember that discussion. I didn't remember the results.
And it was decided that it was a live stream. Yeah.
But
I believe a decision was made, and Diane has the information on
And-
that if you want to.
Go for it.
There was a determination made.
I apologize.
Free
I
flowing
didn't read
river.
the paperwork that I've gathered for the past several years when the previous mayor was here, but I know that Municipal League stated that we're not responsible for it at all. And so I know that was one of the issues that settled the question years ago. And the mitigation plan that Dwayne is working on is to help to get future funding, but is in conjunction with the county because it's not our property. Now, if it's under the auditorium, it's our property. But that was my remembrance. Like I said, I do apologize. I haven't reviewed it before this meeting because I just came back.
we own what's under the auditorium from wall to wall and what's under our parking lot on the other end. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
Question for Mr. Purkeypile. Mr. Purkeypile, how much would it cost to make that concrete reinforced fix to open those two? Just give ballpark. We're not
$5,000-$6,000, at most.
So even if we went ahead and paid for, as Dwayne did, we went ahead and paid for it, we could at least ask, we could even request that the Quorum Court reimburse us and see what.
Excuse me.
Which I
Or go
know,
half and half, something.
but at least we could.
We
But
can't,
after that, we can't fix it.
well,
We can't
no,
do that.
no, wait a minute. Let me finish the sentence. We can't expend city money on county property.
Got it.
So they would have to foot the whole bill. Now, we can go in there and do it and just give them the bill and say, okay, we can wait. We can wait on that, but you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Because they still have, our contract says we will keep it in hard surface and good repair. Doesn't say anything about below to the ground, to the center of the earth, and all the way through. Yes, sir.
Well, if the contract says that, hard surface and in good repair, then we could, that to me says that we could bridge over with a surface repair of reinforced concrete,
I just don't think we can dig the parking lot up.
But, okay, but that was not my comment. My
Okay.
comment is definition, folks, of a storm sewer. I'm not talking about a sanitary sewer. A storm sewer is if you have curb inlets, you direct street flow into it, then that is a storm sewer, okay? We have multiple street curb inlets, and I don't care what your municipal league has said. The definition, the engineering definition, is that is a storm sewer, and the city should be responsible for maybe not all of it, but most of it. So
We don't have them on this side over here.
Sorry.
We don't. They're passed down by the junction.
Mr. McClung?
That's why it's flooded over here.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we get the Carroll County judge to give us written permission to authorize the repair to the parking lot as Mr. Purkeypile has suggested, with a dollar figure not to exceed $8,000. And that is the motion. And the reason for that is that you open those 2 parking spots up, you're going to recover the money.
No, you're not.
You're not.
$8,000? You know how many times you got to park there to get
You
$8,000?
ain't getting a dime now.
But
You make $252 a month for each spot.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's 500.
Yeah, it's a motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion?
yes,
Yes, sir.
you're talking 5-6 years of parking revenue to even come close to those 2 parking spots. We're talking about 2 parking spots and expending $8,000 of city money when those 2 spots can be filled by 2 spots down there or 2 spots up at Plainer Hill. Yes, I understand parking more than anybody at this table. But to expend that kind of city money for a responsibility that is not ours, I'm sorry, that is not a good use of money. The return on investment is not there. And you're talking 5 years down the road. We can be addressing this issue long before that. But no, I'm sorry. That's not a wise use of revenue.
Mr. Schneider?
You just made my point. We aren't responsible, but it has been taken care of. So either, these are, the way I say it, these are our 2 choices. Either we expend the money, and Dee said it would probably be about $5,500 a month for those 2 places would take us 10 years.
$500 a month.
Yeah, 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, times 4.
That ain't 7
That's
days
5.
a week. I'm sorry.
These are all round figures. The point being, either we can expend the money and fix it to protect lives, or we can appoint someone, probably the mayor, maybe the mayor and the attorney, to go down and rip them a new one and say, it's yours, fix the damn thing. We've waited, 5-6 years now. This is pathetic. Most people were here, except for Dee and David, were here when the parking lot down there collapsed. Half of the whole parking lot.
I was here.
Were you? Okay.
I
It was
investigated it.
horrendous. I don't think we want that happening here. And right now we may have 2 damaged areas, but I keep seeing that it's not ours. Fix it.
Mr. DeVito?
You have a professional opinion from an engineer who sat at this table, who just told you that the friction and the mass above the drainage ditch, in his professional opinion, it is not something that's going to collapse. If you're worried about people's cars falling into the abyss, we've already addressed that issue with the barricade that's there right now. But to expend this kind of money for 2 parking spots, we would be better to go buy land with that $8,000 and create new parking spots than to address something that is either going to be fixed by the county someday, but not this year.
Well, they won't unless we sit on them, or at least approach them.
Mr. Schneider, please.
I'm sorry, this is not. Oh, this. We need to just think about this for a little bit. This is not an agenda item number 1. The public doesn't have a chance to chime in on this, and it's their money that we're willing to spend in a heartbeat here. And if safety is the issue, we've already addressed it.
Mr. Purkeypile?
Yes, I'd like to clarify. What I did say was, we don't know if it's stable or not. I suspect that it is because there's a factor of safety of over 1 because it hasn't collapsed right now. We show some evidence that it's subsided, so that indicates to me we've lost some of the fine materials underneath. So I just merely pointed out that we could do this. I think the $8,000 figure is probably really high. I would be happy to put a finer pencil to that and come up with something that's reasonable. Not that I would sign or seal anything, but my point is, I don't think that we're going to be spending $8,000, and I don't either. We should be able to accommodate reasonable repair on this that takes allows us to get this off the table. I don't want to be James, Mr. DeVito. I do not want to spend money recklessly here in the city, but a few things we need to address. I would suggest that you allow me to put a little finer pencil to it, and I will come back to the table. Right now, let's postpone this.
Or just
Okay,
take
we
it
have-
to the next one.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Would the Carroll County Judge give written permission for the city to repair not to exceed $8,000?
That's the motion made and seconded. Unless Mr. McClung wants to withdraw that, Mr. McClung.
Well, first of all, it's not to exceed $8,000. I didn't expect it to be $8,000, but it was not to exceed $8,000.
Right, that's what it says.
I certainly didn't want to say not to exceed $4,000 and have it be $4,500. You know, that's the purpose of that. As far as the parking spots, if you tried to sell those 2 parking spots for $8,000 apiece, you'd have buyers for them all day long. From people down here that are retailers that would pay that for a parking spot. So, but I don't expect that to be, that kind of money either. That was just a ceiling, so it would go, would be enough, because I don't know what the tighter end is. Now, if you want to get the pencil tighter, then I'll withdraw the motion and bring it back up. But
Yes, sir.
I think a maximum not to exceed is fine, but I would like to come back to the table with something that's a little more realistic.
then I'll withdraw the motion.
That's a second.
Second.
Okay.
Ms.
Motion and
Schneider,
second.
you were the second.
Oh, it was? Okay. Yeah, I withdraw.
Okay. Withdraw. Okay, so now the current motion is being made by Mr. McClung for Mr. Purkeypile to put pencil to it and bring it back to the table.
That's
Is that a
fine.
motion?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I'll
is there
make
a second to
motion.
that one?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I would just like to, one clarifying comment. I said 10
Okay.
years instead of 10 months.
Okay, let me verify something. Mr. DeVito, was that a yes for the pencil or a aye on the no vote?
You generally say same sign, and I
Okay.
said same sign. You asked for the
Okay.
no.
Okay, his is a no vote. I just want to make sure. Okay. So moving on. We have postponed number 8 already, brings us to number 9, new business, which is ordinance reclaiming portion of Sweeney Alley. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Floor is open.
I don't have anything on Sweeney Alley.
My name's first. Did we get a motion? Did we get it drawn up?
We don't. I did not hear from the petitioner with exactly what they wanted for their description, and that's part of the problem here. But I suspect that may have been because my office was closed most of last week due to the weather. And I did leave them with my personal phone number, but I didn't get a call. So,
Move to postpone.
second.
Made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, brings us to new business.
Now what happened to
Number 10. Oh,
Number 10.
be
We
determined.
don't have a number 10.
Ordinance number 2200 vacating portion of Nut Street, fee to be determined. Didn't we do that last time?
Okay, I don't have a number
No, we
10.
didn't.
Okay,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't,
There
apparently
was-
didn't get the right one. Okay.
A matter of a
Number
fee or
10.
something.
Mr. McClung,
Motion to discuss.
Second.
floor is open.
I'd like to I move that the council insert a dollar amount of 0.
Second.
Any further discussion on it before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now new business. Number 1 is postponed, brings us to number 2, which is discussion for preparation of ordinance prohibiting animals over 25 pounds in C3.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Floor is open. Mr. Mitchell.
I think we need to ask our city attorney to make the wording changes for us to what we had wanted. Would that be the correct way to do that? Since it was in C3, it was restricted, it just says animals. Is that appropriate to ask you to do that?
If you wanted to, if I have the right to ask you to clarify exactly what you want, certainly I can do that. And I understood that we're wanting to restrict animals over 25 pounds, is my question.
Animals over 25 pounds.
Up to 25.
Animals up to 25 pounds that have that meet USDA requirements.
Okay,
That's different.
that's not what the ordinance says. It says over 25 pounds. It's written right here.
Are you restricting, my understanding from the discussion is you want to keep animals that are larger than 25 pounds from being used in performances within C3.
Yes.
Okay. And you have no objection as to what type of animals if they're smaller than 25 pounds?
No spiders, please. No.
Well,
Yes.
if you want to exclude spiders, that's what I need to know.
Cobras, vertilons.
But, I mean, there are performances that come around, I don't know, I haven't seen them here, but that do have very poisonous reptiles.
They're usually contained.
Yeah, well, I would hope they're always contained, but I just want to be sure I know what you're wanting. But if you don't care what the animal is, as long as they're under 25 pounds, that's an easy enough fix. If you want something beyond that, I would like to know that before I draft it, and then.
What if we change animals to mammals? Would that take care of that problem? And but there also USDA has some standards that go with animals that are used in performances, and if you meet those standards, we obviously wouldn't have to list them out. It would really help a lot.
Do you know where that's found, or
I'll look for it.
Can you? Because I'm not sure where the USDA requirements are, because I know that there are a lot of performances that do involve snakes in particular and other reptiles that have. I mean,
Mr. McClung.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have one question. It may be silly, but what precipitated this?
A monkey.
The monkey at the
Freddie.
Theater.
The people that were upset about the Wyatt Zone C3 hours of operation and the intimate theater being, or the theater being there in general, moved from the issue of the theater over to the list of prohibited things, including the hours of operation and the animal. And then it went to planning, and
Does
planning
it continue to use a monkey?
Yeah.
There is a monkey that meets USDA requirements, that's 6 pounds, that doesn't interact with the audience, that comes out, that's part of the performance and leaves, and it's there a couple times. But it became
Ms. Schneider, I'll get to you in a second. You know,
a point of issue with a lot of people that were opposed to the theater. That's what happened.
Ms. Schneider.
Okay. In regards to using the monkey, that is one place of business. My contention is, first of all, you shouldn't be pinpointing one business. Ergo, you can't just go by the weight of that particular monkey. Number two, if someone is doing a performance in C3 and they want to use their pet dog, they should be able to. My boxer weighs 75 pounds, and he's still kind of a puppy. I still think that 25 pounds should be made 100 pounds. That would cover pet dogs. It'll cover the monkey, spiders, snakes, any of that kind of stuff without allowing elephants or orangutans or anything too humongously big.
Mr. McClung.
Yes, thank you. One other point I'm just not sure on. What is it that allows like Sarge to have a cat in there on the counter, or any of the other businesses that have a pet that's on location?
Zoning?
C3.
Is there anything in C1 that says it's all right or all wrong?
Not addressed.
It's not just in C3.
I think it's called the proverbial can of worms here. Yes, sir, Mr.
What? They're not performing animals.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. The bunnies are.
The rabbits are in
Excuse
at
me,
3 Center Street.
those are retail operations. There's a big difference between a cat sitting in a window in a retail operation than a performance where people go to pay to sit in a seat to watch a performance. There is a difference.
But we're talking C3. We're not.
You're talking
about
pets
theater.
versus performing animals.
In C3.
Anybody else?
It's C3.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. No further. Mr. Purkeypile.
Sorry.
All right.
Then make that distinction between pets and performing animals.
A
In
pet
other words,
can be a performing animal.
but just if you put it in there, that would exclude anybody that had a pet.
You don't want to exclude them.
I assume the monkey's not a pet, it's an employee.
No idea. Never seen it.
W-2s and all of that.
Yeah,
It's a primate.
Okay. Mr. Schneider.
primary employee.
Let's get with it here. We're kinda-
In view of the fact that we do not have any kind of animal language in any of the other areas of town, why don't we just delete that?
Good idea.
Any reference to animals. If someone shows up with a freaking elephant and tries to get it in a building, then we can address it.
Ms. Eller.
We
Sure, sure.
the last discussion we had on this, there was a discussion to simply eliminate that from C3 entirely, animals, and I think it came up because the bed and breakfasts would not be allowed to have service dogs or something. This whole thing is a can of worms, and I don't know whether any of our retail stores are zoned C3 or not, but we do have a store that has performing rabbits. And I don't know whether that's C3 or what it is. But, there's one up in the highway, too.
Yeah, they have.
So, yeah, so I don't even know why we're getting into this. I think it's so dumb. Why do we care?
Mr. Mitchell. Go ahead.
I would draw my motion and we'll come up with a new one.
Second.
Okay. There is no motion for the table now. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that under C3, we delete animals.
Verbiage on animals.
Delete the provision to forbid animals, is what you're saying,
The verbiage.
Yes, ma'am. To delete the word animals out of there and
out of the prohibitions.
out of the prohibitions, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, in C3, okay.
I'll second that.
Make it simple.
Any further discussion on that one? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Takes us to number 3. I'm sorry. Did you have a question? Okay.
I'm delighted.
Freddie.
Okay. All right, moves us to number 3, workshop. Pardon me. Workshop date for parking rate increases some special events. Floor is open.
Move to discuss.
Second.
Mr. Schneider.
We've had this on our agenda for eons, and I still don't understand because it's not a parking rate increase for special events. It was curtailing spaces used for special events, I thought.
Both.
Well, I'm both because we were going to rather than 2 a day or whatever. But wasn't it also in regards to curtailing how many spaces were allowed depending on the kind of special event?
It was discussed.
Okay. So we need a workshop. This has been on our agenda for months. We have nothing else to do this winter, guys. Let's have some workshops. As we look at
Speak for
Diane
yourself.
again.
Mr. Purkeypile.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Diane to come forward and discuss. She's probably got more information about this. She's observed the issues and the conditions and the events.
Yeah, originally, it was just the rate increase, because we only charged $3 a day. And we had an ordinance prepared for $9 a day. Then y'all went into the discussions about using all the lots, you know, they buy all the lots and don't use them and stuff like that. But I took over doing the special events about a year ago, and it'll be a year in June. And with the request for this coming year, because I monitored every lot during every special event and wrote down how many cars were there, what were used, you know, when did we open it up. And so this year, like for the minis, they've already requested for last year. They didn't use any, they used maybe 30 spots. So this year, I only gave them around the courthouse. I didn't issue them spots over there because it's under our discretion how much they can use. You know, we don't have, I don't need that, you know, I don't think that's going to be an issue this year that the council needs to discuss, because it's our discretion in the mayor's office how many parking spaces we allocate. And I kept records from last year, so I have something to show them to say this is the reason why. So right now it's not a problem with that aspect of delegating how many spaces to rent out. And at least in my opinion, I don't think it's a problem right now with that part, because I've monitored it and based it on that from last year.
Schneider.
If you decide to enjoy winter weather and move to Alaska, what happens? This is great. You're doing it the way it should be done. This is great. What happens if you all of a sudden leave us? You know, you might like winter. You know? I mean, this is why I think we need something in writing.
True, it's up to the council, but right now it's an administration thing, and it's just something that we've based it on past, and I don't think it's an issue. But
Yes, sir.
I'm
Well,
fine with that.
I think you just nailed it right there. I don't think it's an issue. I think you guys can administrate it, and we just continue doing what you're doing. You're basically shrinking the number of spaces that these events are not using and freeing them up for the public to park in, and I thank you for doing that. I think we should just continue to allow you, through the mayor, to do that.
Mr. Mitchell.
I'd like to recommend or make a motion that we bring the ordinance that was increasing the parking rates to $9 back to council for review.
Second.
Further discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh,
No.
That was the price, not
What?
the
I
number
don't
of
understand
spaces.
what are we voting on? Where
The rate increase from $3 to $9. We're not doing anything tonight. We're just going to bring
Yeah.
it back onto the agenda. The price increase was going from $3 to $9, and some people thought that was too much.
we're voting on having a discussion.
Bringing the ordinance back
To the
sample
table.
To discuss.
We're voting to discuss.
Yes.
Okay, as long as we're not voting, but voting to discuss, okay, that'll be a yes.
And the two no's were Terry and... Thank you.
Okay, moves us to number 4, discussion of used vehicle or vehicles used as limousines. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. DeVito.
This was brought up by one of the limousine companies in town who took exception to what's considered a limousine. As per Ordinance 2181, a limousine is described as any other passenger automobile or van not herein otherwise defined with seating capacities not exceeding 18 passengers and used to transport blah, 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 blah. I don't really see an issue for council to enter into this. That person, and I don't know that if he represents the company, I'm assuming he does, I think the marketplace will regulate that on its own. I think if one of you has a stretch limousine versus a van, I think people that are going to rent a limousine are going to make those decisions on their own. I don't think council needs to go in and tell, how long it needs to be stretched or what year it is or all of that. I think the marketplace will determine that for us.
Ms. Snyder?
First, some clarification. Isn't the van a mega taxi or something? What was the term for the van?
Jumbo.
Pardon?
Jumbo taxi
Jumbo.
cab.
That's what it was. Okay, I'm just wondering if, in regards to the limousine, if we need, for proper clarification in the ordinance and description, do we need to add the word stretch for limo? Since the van is the jumbo taxi, I don't know that much about these things, but do we need more of a clarification for the wordage?
Is that directed to Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that the word stretch would have, and maybe it does, maybe it has an industry standard of what it means, but certain vehicles are built, as I understand it, as limousines, and most of them are cut down by a secondary supplier and stretched. The ones that originate from the original manufacturer, I don't know if they would use the term stretch. I don't know. So if you're asking me, I don't know if the word stretch would mean what you're continuing to mean or not without some research. Because, I mean, certain manufacturers build luxury automobiles that would, in my opinion, be a limousine. But most of them, I think, are cut downs by secondary companies, much like conversion vans used to be a few years ago. Lots of companies in Indiana that cut down vehicles and put in extra seats and extra space.
Then do we need wordage clarification in regards to van, as in the van is the jumbo taxi. It's not just a van, it's designated as jumbo taxi.
Our licensing covers that.
Does it say jumbo taxi is the van?
The licensing covers it, whether it is a taxi or a limousine. The distinction is made in whether you have a taxi cab franchise, you can have a van and call it a jumbo cab. If you have a limousine license, you can call it Fred's Party Wagon or whatever you want to call it. The licensing determines how it's going to be used and how it's going to be regulated. You're restricting the ability of people to rent vehicles to transport a wedding party, to say have it at their use all day long. If they want to have a van, fine. If they want to have a $150,000 stretch limousine, fine. But we're just intruding too much into the marketplace here. We did the hard work. We got a good taxi cab ordinance. We separated it from the limousine ordinance. I really don't see where we need to intrude any more into the marketplace.
Okay, so you personally don't think we need to do any clarification of wordage?
Our ordinance specifically
Okay.
says that.
Any further? Ms. Ellen?
I'm not aware that we have a limousine ordinance. Do we have a limousine ordinance as separate from a taxi ordinance?
State law.
Well, state law, yeah, but we don't have a city limousine ordinance.
You have a definition.
We have a definition.
We have a definition. Okay, the way I see this going, because if business picks up and things become, and we get increasing business from airports around there, especially from Northwest Arkansas Airport, what is going to happen is we are going to have limousine companies, the situation that we had this last summer, a company coming in simply wanting the airport traffic, period, and wanting nothing else to do with any kind of taxi business in Eureka Springs, and they are taking away that business from the legitimate two companies that we have operating here that are depending on this city for income. And I think the direction we're going here is that eventually, and maybe we should start talking about it, we are going to have a taxi limousine franchise ordinance, and we're going to have to grant a number of franchises, probably two, because we have two companies. Otherwise, we're going to have this problem all the time of companies from Rogers and from Fayetteville and from Springdale coming in here to garner the airport traffic, and we're going to have the complaints from the existing taxi companies in town here. As I understand it, David White's business pretty much is fulfilling a contract with the Office of Human Concern at this point in time, and the other taxi company doesn't even want to bother with that. And so they're getting along just fine. When we have the problem is when another company comes in and tries to skim off the lucrative business and leave the rest of it for the local taxi company, and that we don't want, because we want our taxi companies to be here because they're an asset to our business, and we might have to do something to protect them by having a franchise ordinance eventually.
Mr. DeVito.
We can't regulate outside the city limits. If a company in Rogers wants to pick somebody up at XNA and drive them to Eureka Springs, that's perfectly within all state laws. Our authority stops at the city limits. We have regulations in place that deal with companies on a pickup time basis, and I think if my memory, which at this point in time is very questionable, that we have a 2-hour wait period between the origination of the call for the limousine and the pickup. So beyond that, whatever happens outside of our city limits, we have no say-so. Let me finish.
Okay.
When your scenario presents itself, then let's deal with it if it ever happens. Right now, I don't see it being a problem. Right now, I think we did all the hard work, and I just, I don't see anything involved beyond what we've already said here today.
Can I answer that? Because it already has presented itself a problem. We have limousine companies from out of town making contracts to come in here and pick up people and take them to the airport. Now, that is what we do not want. If it's going to be business that's inside Eureka Springs, if it's from an out-of-town company that does not have a license with us, they're coming in here, they're making arrangements over the phone to come and pick up people and take them to the airport. We do not want that. We want to have that against the law because it's taking business away from our own companies.
Mr. McClung.
You're talking about like hotels or motels contracting with a limo service to...
No, I'm talking about limo services from out of town making arrangements to come in and pick up people here and take them to the airport without having a contact with a motel or a hotel. They're just the person in town here picks up the phone and calls them, and they come in and pick them up. We should not be allowing that.
You can't stop that.
Well, we can if we have a franchise.
No, you can't.
You can't
No.
franchise.
You know you can monitor the phone calls? You can't do that.
Okay, I'm not going to take up time debating it now, but it's going to become an issue if the business with the airport increases.
Yes,
We're going to
yes,
have businesses from Rogers and Fayetteville and from Springdale skimming off the limo business in this town, which is very lucrative. I mean, it's a great way to make money.
Any further? Okay, so this one, no action. Is that correct? Number 5 has been removed, and number 6 is discussion courthouse lease. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Is there a second?
My only contention was insurance. If we don't need insurance,
Okay.
that was
I
what
need a
I
second
wanted
before
to
we can
discuss.
delve into it. If there's no second, the motion fails. Okay, that brings us to agenda setting.
Can I put this back on?
We're right at agenda setting.
Yeah, we're right at agenda setting.
Well,
Mr. DeVito.
Not tonight.
Mr. McClung.
Was there something earlier that we spoke of that we needed to add back on? I don't remember what the heck it was. But
Yes, film industry tax incentive update.
that was just table.
Just roll forward.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
anything's supposed to
There
be
was something. If it comes to me, I'll bring it up, but I can't remember.
Okay, is that all
But
you
no,
have?
yeah, no,
Okay.
that's it.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir. 2015 budget process. And the second one would be and I don't know how this works because I don't know if we have an official, if we make an official HR policy or personnel policy, does that come, or is that totally under your jurisdiction and it's not a council issue? If it's a personnel policy?
Right now, it's administrative.
It's yours?
Yes, sir.
Then never mind.
Thank you. Okay, that one's true. Oh, hang on a second.
Get a second?
I got to move.
I don't know.
Does he need
Or
a
just
second?
mention that we keep it on.
Oh,
Second.
no, I'm good. I think you got a second on the 15 budget process, didn't you? Okay, Mr. Purkeypile.
I'd like to put ordinance reclaiming portion of Sweeney Alley on the agenda.
It's already on there.
Okay, just want to make sure we.
Yeah, anything that's postponed just rolls over
Very good.
unless it's designated
I have nothing
otherwise.
else. Thank you.
Ms. Schneider?
Well, I think we really do need to discuss the courthouse lease, considering all the mold that's here and the people who are getting sick from it. I think it's something we need to address. I understand people are afraid to sit there and approach these people, but they need to be
No, we're
talked
not.
to.
Okay, I'll second it for you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Snyder, anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Ms. Ellen?
No.
Council comments, Mr. DeVito.
I just want to have a shout out for the Public Works crew. They just, I can't imagine what they're going through. I worked construction for 20 years, and I know what it's like to work outside in 20-degree weather and colder. I don't know what it's like to be down in a ditch wet in that kind of weather, and I just I can't say enough about what they've got their hands full, especially this year. Hats off to y'all.
Mr. McClung.
I echo that for James. I mean, yeah, it's you know, we've had winters like this before, but it's been a while, and I think they responded well, absolutely.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Purkeypile?
None, thank you.
Ms. Snyder?
So I want to say happy birthday to my 13th grandchild. Cadence just turned 2. Happy birthday to my 8th grandson. He turned, I think, 11. And other than that, yes, it's been a very long winter. Oh, God, has it been long. That's it.
Ms. Ellen?
No, I don't have anything.
No, thank you. I would, as a mayor, I'd like to thank all the city departments for the exemplary actions that they have taken during all of our weather, and will continue to do so. I believe I heard the actual temperature of 50s or 60s this weekend. Yay, go team. But we still have a long ways to go. There again, all the departments, and the only one I would put above anybody right now would be echoing Mr. McClung and Mr. DeVito is the guy at Public Works, and they have earned a lot more than they're making right now with the stuff that they have to deal with and will have to deal with, because there's still other issues that need to be addressed that are not quite emergencies, but they're on the top of the do list. As far as anything else on the agenda, I don't have any other comments, but I do have some events. February the 15th, Chocolate Lovers Festival in the Ozarks. Also, the Midwinter Jam at the Auditorium at 7 p.m. February the 22nd, EUREKA or Grass, whichever, Night Parade at 6 p.m. And February the 17th, the city offices are closed for which holiday?
Washington.
President's Day. Thank you. Stay warm. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. There's no anybody opposed.